How's everybody doing? Welcome back to another episode of the CNC. I guess today's another C show on CFB, baby. We're reviewing this past week 11 slate of games. Just quick recap, rundown through that. As always, some Ballin and Fallins after what we just saw. And then just recapping what was honestly a pretty big bounce back week for the program in terms of our best bets. Let's get into this. Ballin and Fallin. I think Ballin, anybody could really pick this or see this one coming. We have a first ever two-time Ballin, Jaden Daniels. I mean, are you kidding me? 600 yards of total offense. The guy's playing at an unconscionable level. Unconscious to think about how good he's been. Very much deserving of the Heisman in my book, for what it's worth. Curious to see if you guys agree. Let me know in the comments who you think the Heisman frontrunner is. He is, in my view, Jaden Daniels, firmly the quarterback 3 now, even in terms of an NFL draft prospect-wise. Been playing so well this season. He really is kind of like a Lamar Jackson out there. And people brought up Lamar won the Heisman in a year where his Louisville team had 3 losses. Jaden Daniels equally is as deserving. Fallin, enough of the praise, right? I gotta always throw some negativity in there, but no, jokes aside, for the Fallin, I'll make it short and sweet here. I think anybody could have also seen this one coming. I gotta go with Penn State and James Franklin. Connor has even said on the show how perspective really matters with Penn State fans and really fans of relatively, if you were fans of anyone else, any other program, most other 99.9% of teams in the FBS, I should say, you'd be thrilled with the Penn State circus in this cycle year after year, where you're talking 9-10 wins, but not really a Big Ten or CFP win to show for it. But look, this past weekend at home, really a huge opportunity and just some head scratching decisions. That is a couple times. I mean, you don't go for a 4th and inches. Sure, it's on your own side of the field. You end up going for a 4th and 5. Basically, it's obviously later. We're talking first versus like fourth quarter here. But it's a 4th and 5 on about the same side, your own territory, not even talking near midfield. You go for that. And then, yes, they kind of did have a chance still because of how quick Michigan scored that touchdown on that turnover on the 4th and 5. But with how well your defense had played, and they'd shown, I should say, the ability to get some stops, you got to punt it away there. But then, really, I cannot understand how you go for 2 and basically guarantee you're out of the game by being down 9, more than 8, right? Basically going for 2 to get at best, okay, it's a 7-point game. The extra point, you get to 8, you're still very much alive. You still have to get that next score. So you're not guaranteed anything by any means. But what you're guaranteed by kicking an extra point is staying in the game. So James Franklin, Penn State, I don't want to beat a dead horse here. It's just an endless cycle, and if I was a Penn State fan, which I know I have some friends that are, I'd just be doing things that should go unnamed. But look, yeah, let's review the slate itself here. Look, Ohio State, previous number 1, because of another team now in the rankings that just got released. Look, Marvin Harrison, unbelievable. He's really, I think, top 3 Heisman, easy as. Ohio State just simply has Michigan State's number now year after year. And look, to speak of a team taking care of business, Georgia pretty much has the number of everybody else in the SEC. Unbelievable blowout performance against a top 10 team, an Ole Miss team that had a lot riding, but at least how I saw it happening, it played out. Really wasn't ever too close. outside of the first couple possessions, but Georgia, they are who they are. They are who we continue to think they are, I should say. After the sky seemingly falls, or maybe it's very poor, weak narratives. Georgia, very rightful number one, I think, at this point in the season. Going through here, Michigan, Penn State, just kind of talked about that. Michigan took care of business, how we had both envisioned on the show. Best bet hit there. Look, they grounded and pounded. I'm curious to see how J.J. McCarthy fares and potentially reinvigorating a Heisman campaign with his performance potentially against Ohio State. We will see. Big momentum, though, for that Michigan program. Jim Harbaugh, it's really a huge, I think Sharon Moore even said, talk about, you want to say chip on the shoulder. I heard the quote during the broadcast was, now it's a boulder, which it really is, which could make Michigan very, very dangerous. Miami, Florida State. Florida State wins another kind of close, tight-ish game. Florida State, we'll just leave it as the narrative we've been saying on the show. I think they're kind of a wild card, and they're potentially on upset watch from now until the CFP begins. Washington, Utah, what a game. I mean, Michael Penix, he's reaffirming his status in the Heisman race. Really intrigued to see how this Pac-12 ends up the regular season. I think we're on that crash course for Oregon, Washington, quite frankly, and that's obvious. But Washington, some tough games left, especially this upcoming Week 12 weekend, which we will preview very shortly in a couple days later this week for you. But yeah, big win by Washington to stay alive and fighting, really, as obviously still controlling their own destiny, as I think Oregon does, who got a nice win against USC. USC, though, best bet, covered. Things you love to see. Yeah, Bo Nix. I think it's almost a 4-person race, really, in my book, for the Heisman. It's almost like the invites are almost set with Jaden Daniels, Marvin Harrison, Michael Penix, and Bo Nix. I think Oregon, look, we've talked about it on the show, really the most complete team, arguably, in the country. I mean, they are a juggernaut, to say the least, and they continue to show it. Good win against a stout USC offense, for sure. So, Texas, TCU. Texas picking up a nice win. Really crazy fourth quarter, being outscored 20-3 there. But Quinn Ewers being back with that Texas offense, be really curious to see how he can maybe change or affect the narrative for Texas if he kind of is able to turn it on in this stretch run last couple weeks of the season. We'll see. Bama, Kentucky. It was always Bama here. Kentucky, we've talked about it, Con's talked about it on the show. Kentucky, just good thing it's basketball school or basketball time, right? Not too much disrespect, but it is a disrespectful thing to say from me. So let's just move on here to Oregon State, who rolled over Stanford. Oregon State, going to be quite a test for Washington. We will see. Let me know, you guys, how you maybe foreshadow or lean for this matchup, but should be quite a matchup and a clash. Potential spoil opportunity for Oregon State on a Washington offense that's been so potent, but a complete, relatively Oregon State team that is going to be surely up for this game. But enough of what's coming ahead. We'll get into that later in the following show here with Connor returning. But Missouri, not even close. Honorable mention, best bet. That paid off on this show as well. Didn't put him on the best bets, but honorable mention. It worked out there. Nonetheless, Missouri, man, they are looking good. Potentially bound for quite a big bowl game, I think. Safe to say. UCF annihilating Oklahoma State. Just wow. That is quite a result that I think Con leaned UCF winning, but my God, that was pretty crazy to see Oklahoma State. Just no contest. Just wild. Texas Tech, one of Con's best bets after just the shock factor of the line going in. What we thought was a Kansas team that should have been heavily favored, but Texas Tech, just a crazy line that we both sort of were confused by, but Con, rightly so, took it as the best bet. Texas Tech taking care of business against a respectable program with Kansas, who just got a big win on the hardwood against Kentucky. So tough week or so for Kentucky, but Kansas, interested to see how they finish the season and really maybe where Lance Leopold ends up. Drop in the comments you think who he might be coaching next season, or just his next destination in general you feel for him. But Oklahoma, West Virginia. Oklahoma, we'll just see how they're able to kind of right the ship and maybe play a remind the country who they are really taking care of business against West Virginia. A huge blowout game against a respectable West Virginia team for sure. But yeah, Dylan Gabriel, talk about a potential ball, and I mean, he was lights out, we're talking. And in another world, he would be a guy I think that had an inside track to get to the Heisman stage. I think he'll end up being like a top 10 guy and when it's all said and done in the voting. But yeah, just unfortunate to see with Oklahoma with the couple losses that they've suffered. And yeah, would love to have seen a undefeated, potential Oklahoma Big 12 champ to just completely throw the CFP into further chaos. We've talked about scenarios here on the show. Who do you think maybe your top 4 front runners are? What you think is likely to happen? Drop that in the comments. We're going ham in these comments, baby, today. But moving on, Florida LSU. Yeah, we already talked about it. Ballin, Jaden Daniels, Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas, Lacey. The whole LSU offense is just so potent. It's just sad to see them not be this one-loss potential CFP, as much as it really pains me to say. But in all honesty, quite a showing from an LSU offense that's keeping up with the record LSU offense of the Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, CEH of the world's. Just a crazy season for LSU on the offensive side of the ball. If only they had a better season defensively. But it is what it is. What can we do? What we can do is just appreciate what we're seeing from Jaden Daniels on a week in, week out basis. We're just so intrigued to see where he ends up come this time next year, who he's playing for in the NFL. Let me know how high you think he might go in the draft, man. I think we're talking top 15 pick now at this point. I really do. But Arizona, Colorado, my Buffs, man. It's just pain. I mean, would have been a huge opportunity against top 25 team, your last home game of this regular season. Colorado, man, you missed the extra point, or not the extra point, you missed the field goal to basically their last possession of the game, and then Arizona just marches down the field and couldn't stop it on a third down. Just brutal stuff. Just missed opportunities, and man, I think there is a good chance. I think that Colorado actually does beat Washington State relative to the games that they've been playing. But then, my God, Utah. I mean, it's at this point, I'm almost maybe want to see Colorado lose, so there's just no chance. Just get it done and dusted, over with. But Colorado, man, Shedeur Sanders, curious to see how this Colorado team transitions and really shows up next season. Big opportunity. They have some star power, but gotta address the offensive line. Just not good enough, clearly, which is such a shame, given some of the talent that's on offense with obviously Shedeur under center. Would have been a real QB3, I think, for this upcoming 2024 class, for the draft. Not to get too Todd McShay, Mel Kiper here on you, but jokes aside, it looks like Shedeur Sanders is now QB1 for 2025. Potentially very interesting with him and Quinn Ewers potentially staying. And then Drew Aller, though, in his true draft eligible third year, potentially 2025. We'll see. We will see. A lot that's really up in the air. Nowhere near the Caleb Williams and Drake Mays of the world. It's looking like, even a year out. But, enough of the draft talk. Rutgers getting shut out against Iowa, 22-0. Con and I both liked that. It was one of Con's best bets, but in Rutgers money line. And of course, when Con's changing it up after we've had a tough go, is when, of course, our true best bets, are on fire pretty much this past weekend. But just kudos to Iowa, top 25 team, and looking like they're going to maybe be that Big Ten West representative in the title game. The question is, are they going to be playing Ohio State or Michigan? I don't know. This might be Ohio State's year. We'll see. Tulsa making it quite a game versus Tulane. Took a lead into the fourth quarter. Speaking of NFL draft guys, Michael Pratt, maybe not his absolute best game, but curious to see how Tulane, they are obviously clearly one of in that upper echelon of the power, or the group of five, the powers of the group of five, I should say. Connor's talked about it on this show. Really good, cool teams, cool storylines, but maybe as some start to fade away, Tulane has, I think, a real chance to really kind of cement themselves. But, talk about other really close, good games. Duke UNC, wild. How a Duke team, less Riley Leonard, really should have won this game, arguably, but I keep saying Caleb. It's almost like a 1A, 1B for me and Caleb Williams, Drake May from an NFL draft context, but my God, Drake May, look, he was clutch, and he made plays when he needed to, and man, his athleticism, he is in the mold of a Herbert, Josh Allen type. Caleb Williams, the Mahomes comp, though. We're talking really, we have to really be celebrating what we have while we got it right now in terms of the quarterback play. I've seen some point out, shout out to Bengal, not a college football exclusively guy. But he brought up the point that from a draft perspective, I guess I should say big man guy, draft guy, overall prospect evaluation, it's going to be quite a transitional type year, it seems like, once we move out of this CFP season. And really, because all this talent from an underclassman perspective, really, 3-year guys at this point, all of this talent's going to be turning over and pretty much bound for the NFL. Will NIL really play a part? I don't know. I don't really think so, because all these offensive star power, star-studded players at the quarterback and receiver tight end position just going to really have a different landscape, I think. A la the Drew Allers and potentially Quinn Ewers' revenge seasons. We'll see. But yeah, Drake May looks bound to be either 1 or 2 in the draft. Enough of that aside there. UNC potentially building the case to be a top 20 team when it's all said and done after all the trials, tribulations of this season. Would be an impressive season, I think, if they're able to do so. Baylor, Kansas State rounding out the top 25 here. Kansas State rolling, man. Shout out to Will Howard. He, local Pennsylvania, Philadelphia area guy. He's been, I think, an under-the-radar quarterback. Curious to see where he maybe ends up this time next season, where he might be playing for at the next level. I don't know. Seems like a day 3 pick, though. That could very well make an NFL team. But plaudits just to that Kansas State program overall. Time and time again now, they're routinely just finding themselves in that top 25, really more, in that as the season seems to wind down, more that top 20 and in ranking. And I think true, talk about maybe last week, Oklahoma State, how we don't think how they're the 15th, talk about 15th ranked team versus are they the 15th best true team in the country. Kansas State, I think their ranking really has some staying power and is indicative of who they are because look, you suffer some losses early in the season and then it's kind of an uphill battle to get back up into the rankings, but they are certainly, I think, have the identity of a tough Big 12 team, which we'll see how they maybe rise potentially to the top in the revamped Big 12, less Texas, less Oklahoma. Well, it should be very, very intriguing with all this conference realignment that's going on. But yeah, guys, that is the short, quick recap of what we saw from a top 25 slate. I got to just go through the best bets right now, round it out on a very good note. Hopefully you guys' tail didn't fade, but I can't blame you. We can't really blame you if you did, either or. But look, rattling through cons. Con 2-1. Only blemish being Rutgers, who, as we said, they kind of just got played out the park by an Iowa team. Iowa being at home, 22-0. Crazy to think an Iowa team scoring 20 points. The world we live in, right? But yeah, Con did hit on his Texas Tech bet, as well as Arizona. Team total over 32.5. Boom, cash it. My best bets, Michigan took care of business, minus covering that 4.5. They got in State College. USC kept it close. It was really, really on the edge, on the fringes there, but kept it close. And then ultimately USC, covering the 15.5 that they got. And then the over, Utah, Washington, that hit in the first half. Wild. Washington related overs. Kind of seeing something there. So look, stay tuned, guys, for next week, or really later this week's preview show where we give out our next best bets. 5-1 overall in this past weekend. Are we turning this ship around? Let me know what you guys think. And if we found something 1 week magic, or is it going to be for the rest of this season? Look, as always, thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed, drop a comment. Show some love hitting the like button. Subscribe. Get crazy with it if you're feeling so frisky. But jokes aside, have a great night. We will both see you soon. Take care.